Three, two, one. Deep beneath the surface of the Metroplex, there exists the Texas 27 Film Vault, a massive complex filled to the brim with cinema classics. Join our Film Vault technicians, Randy, Richard, and Lori, as they venture into the vast library of motion pictures to bring you the finest in cinema entertainment, the Texas 27 Film Vault.
So it's actually beneath the earth?
Well, I mean, that's the premise of the show.
Ah,
Good morning, everybody. How are we doing this fine and lovely morning?
tired.
Tired. Okay. Well, to our listeners out there, again, this is another Just Nerdery episode we're doing on hiatus with the great Kimothy. Big round of applause for Kimothy.
Yay! Sorry, folks. I've just worked at a movie theater during the Barbie and Oppenheimer opening weekend, so I am gone.
You beat?
Oh, I have.
Beat down by the Barbenheimer?
Yes!
Very nice. All right, so today this is a pretty quick one. We're going to talk about a couple of horror hosts because we were talking about horror hosts earlier. I want to talk about one that was local. It existed for 2.5 years and then it went away. There are some videos out there of what these guys did. I have uploaded everything I can find. We've got quite a bit. It's fairly poor quality, but I want to talk today about the Texas 27 Film Vault and also Svengoolie, who is a local horror host from Chicago who is nationwide. Yeah, I know you're familiar with Svengoolie. I would really be surprised if you were familiar with the Texas 27 Film Vault, other than some of the videos that I've brought up. I'm sorry.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything.
So we'll start with the Texas 27 Film Vault. It was a hosted horror movie show with Randy Clower and Richard Malmos as Randy and Richard, the Film Vault technicians first class, screening movies on Saturdays at 10:30 p.m. on KDFI Channel 27, Dallas, Texas, from the 9th of February 1985 to August 29th, 1987. It was it ended on my birthday when I was 13. I was so sad.
Happy birthday! Your favorite show is now canceled.
Yeah, well, okay. Shortly after that, KERA moved Doctor Who to Saturday nights at that time slot. So, because originally they were showing it at like 8 o'clock.
Happy birthday! We canceled your favorite show, but you get Doctor Who.
Yay! So the scenario for the show was there was this thing called the Film Vault Corps. It was this weird quasi-military organization established to protect America's schlock culture heritage by safeguarding the bad, campy, but lovable cinematic movies of the past. So the Film Vault Corps carries out the task in various film vaults under every major city in the United States. These vaults were each the size of aircraft carriers and stored all the movies that the local channels filled their late night hours with. The crew risked their lives fighting off giant rats, worm-like creatures called cellumites, and other menaces that lurked beneath America's unsuspecting cities. Each episode ran for about 2.5 hours, which included screening the movie, skits, interviews, and they'd also show like old serial, like Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers or something like that.
So let me guess, when you say giant rats and worm-like creatures, I assume they were guys in suits.
No, it was all miniature work.
Ah!
Yeah, oh my God, it was so... Again, I've included a bunch of these videos. Some of the best mini stuff I've seen, especially considering they had no budget, because Channel 27 was a little local television station that ran at a profit loss for like 10 years. It was really kind of hokey. But the guys that wrote it, Randy Clower, Richard Malmos, and again Lori, I think Lori Johnson, again, I don't have a whole lot of information on it, basically wrote every episode. And so it was this idea is that they were these underground film vault technicians that would go and find the movie and then show them for the people, and they'd sit around a desk talking, but it looked like an
So
underground lair.
so like MST3K, but a little bit different. Like more out of love rather than his
Yes,
boss hates him.
yes. I'm going to be honest. This predates MST3K.
Oh, so they probably got the idea from them.
Well, they
Fucking
would have
lame.
had to have been in the Metroplex at the time because it didn't go anywhere else. I mean, the idea was that they wanted to do it nationally, like Elvira. They used to do these bits where they would make fun of Elvira, like they would go and talk to her dad, Mister, and they just called him Bigaball. So it would be this serious interview with this redneck dude with giant cleavage. No one said anything about the cleavage. They just had the interview.
Okay, I don't know if you folks know about this bit on Tumblr, but people like to Photoshop big naturals on Gandalf and call it Gandalf Big Naturals. Is it something like that?
Very much so. Very much so. I believe that I got the Bigaball interview in our list of. I found a bunch of stuff. Granted, I want to warn the audience: very, very poor quality. Um, One of the producers, Ken Miller, also did a bunch of the writing, but he was never really on the show. But yeah, it was this show, and it was weird and unusual, and they had this weird opening, which I gave. Also, there was a warning before every episode that said, "Warning: Viewing this program has has te- has been shown to cause brain damage in laboratory animals. Please view at your own request or your own risk."
Eh, I mean, I've seen worse.
Oh my
You
god!
know.
Yes, but oh my god, it was so funny. Um, and again, it was a love because these guys would take these films and they would pick the movies, so they could riff on
Oh,
them, just like MST3K, so they could riff on them ahead of time. Um, but they wouldn't riff on them during the movie. They would break and then they would talk about it, um, sitting at this little desk in the underground. Yeah, it was just weird and funky, and there's some really great artwork for it, which I've I've listed. There's a local fan thing for it, so every few years, and I think we've got another one coming up. They will get together and have like a convention, and the two guys who are still around would show up. They were basically just producers at the Channel 27. Um,
so
and
they were just low grade, like not low grade, but like low ranking film producers who were like, hey, you know what'd be funny if we reviewed these things?
yes, exactly. They worked at the TV station, and they convinced their boss that we could do this and we could do it on a shoestring budget. It
Like
just
Repo, the genetic opera.
Yes, yeah, much like Repo the Genetic Opera. They so they produced it, and it was awesome. Um, but again, alas, it only lasted a little over 2 years. What, it was like right at 2 years, two and a half. And it was off the air forever. But it's one of those things that I wanted to talk about and find videos so it doesn't go away because
Yeah.
it is purely a local thing. It never went anywhere else but the DFW area.
So I'm gonna guess whenever the next convention rolls in town, you're taking me.
I would kind of like to see it, the big birthday episode. I'd kind of like to go and hang out and check it out. Again, these guys were fairly young when they did it, and it was '85, so yeah, they're a lot older now, but they're still around.
Yeah. And hey, if we manage to swing by a deal with them, we could probably even interview them.
I would love to interview uh, Richard Malmos and Randy Clower because they were really really funny guys, and the idea that they had was really funny. Again, I've added on our YouTube playlist or our YouTube page. I've got the playlist for the show, and there's a bunch of stuff out there. Granted, again, it's poor quality. It looks like someone recorded it off of a VHS.
To be fair, I've also had to deal with that in finding some like old stuff too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's something you can't help.
No, no. I think it would be better if we could get in and clean it up. Maybe that's a project that you and I could work on at some point.
Yeah.
Um, Secondly, that's about all I have for the 27 Film Vault. Other than check out some of the stuff that we've got. It's really funny. It's cute. It's quirky. It's offbeat. If you like MST3K, you're gonna love it. Secondly, for this episode, I also wanted to talk about Svengoolie, uh, another local horror host that actually made good and has been on the air for 40 years.
So he's like a lesser known Elvira that's local.
Yes, yes, but he's actually been on longer than Elvira. Because Elvira wasn't on for several years. She would do like video because they released like video tapes with her doing the thing, but her show only ran about 4 or 5 seasons.
And that's disappointing.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, she's still around doing stuff, and she just did some for last Halloween. She did a
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And like, you know what? Good for her and her wife.
Yes,
Because
yes. Cassandra Peters is awesome, and she's basically taken on the role of producer now.
oh, good for her.
Yeah. So, but Svengoolie is an American hosted horror movie television program, and the show features horror and science fiction films, and it is hosted by the eponymous character Svengoolie, who was originally played by Jerry Bishop from 70 to 73. Richard Coase succeeded him in the role from 79 on. Before and after commercial breaks, Svengoolie presents sketches, tells jokes, and performs parody songs related to the film being aired. The show is a long-running local program in the Chicago area and in recent years expanded nationally, airing Saturday nights on MeTV. So the
Hmm.
show airs both low-budget and classic horror and science fiction movies. The host Svengoolie, a, a telescoping of the words Svengali and ghoul, played by Richard Coase, who wears thick skull-like makeup around his eyes and cheekbones, a mustache, goatee, and long wig, all black and black top hat with a tuxedo jacket over a bright red open collared pleated tuxedo shirt.
Hmm.
So just before and after commercial breaks, Svengoolie presents sketches, tells corny jokes, and performs song parodies spoofing the film being aired. Some shows were presented in what was later dubbed Sven Surround, a pun on Sensurround, a brand name theater audio system, in which Svengoolie would joke at the film aired sometimes with humorous sound effects. The creator of MST3K cited Sven Surround as an inspiration. This stunt was discontinued for a short time, then brought back due to viewer requests, although as a clip segment aired outside of the film. One relatively recent addition to the show is the simultaneous use of Twitter with the hashtag Svengoolie, allowing those the watch to comment on the show. And he gets a live feed, so he can basically run it up on a monitor so he can talk to them.
Sounds like a chaotic Twitch chat almost.
A little bit, a little bit. I think this is kind of where that idea came from. In August of 2006, it was reported that the WCIU had obtained broadcast rights to the classic Universal Monsters films from the 30s and the 40s. These films had been requested since Svengoolie aired in the 1980s, but by December of 2006, the show featured 4 episodes of the Abbott and Costello Meet series, where they would meet the Universal Monsters, and several
Hmm.
Hammer film productions that were distributed by Universal International. Svengoolie presented Bela Lugosi's Dracula, claiming that it was the first time the movie had been shown on local televisions in more than a decade. He was correct. It had, not shown for a long time. The show opens with a reference to earlier radio broadcasting, calling all stations, clear the air lanes for the big broadcast. The sound clip from a preview trailer on one of the big broadcasts of 32, 36, 37, and 38 movies. It was a running gag throughout the series. Svengoolie mentions the Chicago suburb Berwyn are met with audio clips of several people groaning. Berwyn! It's just a suburb of Chicago, but he had to pick one because it was from Stan Freberg. he would talk about one. I think he would say Brooklyn. I think that's what it was. Brooklyn, Brooklyn. But he found a suburb around Chicago that sounded like it. So
Hmm.
yeah. Um, but yeah, Richard Coase has basically been running that and producing that for years. Um, the show's original title was Screaming Yellow Theater. The title was derived from Screaming Yellow Zonkers, a yellow sugary glazed popcorn snack first produced in the 60s. Uh, it debuted on September 18th, 1970 on WFLD Channel 32 and ran until September 7th, 1973. Svengoolie at that point was played by Jerry Bishop. But later on, Richard Coase, I'm sorry, a fan was sending sketch ideas, became a show writer. So he went and worked for the network or the local television station. He got a job just because he loves Svengoolie so much. Um, but the station canceled it, and and then there was trouble. The station got bought out and moved around to another thing. But in 1978, after Kaiser Broadcasting or Field Communications bought the station back from Kaiser Broadcasting, Jerry Bishop and Richard Coase talked about bringing the show back. So it was off the air from 73 to 79. But when Richard Coase came back, he didn't want to step on Jerry Bishop's toes, so he called it Son of Svengoolie. And he ran it from 1979 um, to 1986. Um,
Dang.
yeah, so 7-8 years. And the final episode aired in January of '86. Coase stayed on with the network because you can't. Richard Coase looks nothing like Svengoolie outside of the makeup, right? Well, I mean, kinda, and his voice is roughly the same. But he did like a kids show and some other stuff. He continued to work for that television station until the early '90s, where he went to another station over basically across the road, WCIU. Um, in 1994, he wanted to bring the show back, and because um, Jerry Bishop was the creator of the show, he was able to do that. Right, he couldn't like broadcast the old episodes, but he could bring back a lot of the stuff with the show. So he asked Jerry Bishop, he's like, hey, let's do it again. And Jerry Bishop was like, groovy, why don't you stop calling yourself the son of Svengoolie and just call yourself Svengoolie? You did it longer than I did. So they did. Um, Coase also hosts a weekly Three Stoogepalooza show on that same channel, WCIU, Channel 26 in Chicago. Um, but Svengoolie got so big that other stations owned by that company started broadcasting it. So it was on in Chicago, then it was on in Milwaukee, um, South Bend, Indiana.
It started becoming like Elvira, basically.
Yeah. And beginning on April 2nd, 2011, Svengoolie Show became available nationally on the Me TV network, which kind of got together when people stopped doing broadcast television. Um, Anybody out there who's listening, I'm sure there's some cord cutters out there in the United States. Um, we went from analog to digital broadcasts, which freed up a lot of bandwidth for our television stations. But a lot of people went away from terrestrial television at that point. Go get yourself an antenna. Program your TV to find channels, and you will find that what used to be, and again, we're in DFW, so we had a really crowded television market here because originally it was two and they were combined into one. So when the rest of the country only had three stations, we had six.
Yeah, because we were part of it, like almost a large technological. gold mine because we were also producing our own chips at that time, weren't we?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, most of the chips that you bought up until the early 2000s came out of this area. Um, didn't matter what you bought, they came from here or Houston or out near El Paso. Um, but yeah, but because Fort Worth had its own market and Dallas had its own market because we're 43 miles between the center of the two cities, even though we're one big metropolitan area. They merged those in the 60s, so Fort Worth had 3 channels, Dallas had 3 channels, we had 6. When like New York City only had 5, right? We were a major market. So we had 6 channels for a long time, and then we got a few more. So if you stopped watching broadcast television at DFW in, say, the 90s, like most people did, or the early 2000s, we had like, 10 stations. If you go and program your television now, we have 50.
Yeah, we even have this one channel called Heroes and Icons.
Yes.
Somewhat near, they have Star Trek,
Hmm.
old stuff like Guyver and
They
like other
show
stuff.
they
Greatest
show
American Hero.
they show all of the old Star Treks every single day. So you'll get an episode of the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise every
Ugh,
single day.
I'm only angry at I don't like Enterprise.
Is it your ringtone for me, Faith of the Heart?
Yes,
Thank you.
because I got faith of the heart.
Well, one of those channels is BTV, and it broadcasts Svengoolie, and yeah, you can watch it. It's great. They did make a spinoff for both Svengoolie and MeTV's morning cartoon block called Tune In With Me, entitled Sven It premiered on MeTV on March 26, 2022. Sven is hosted by Tune In With Me's Kevin Fleming, and his puppet character Toonie the Tuna uh, is dressed up as Svengoolie. They're not really doing too much of the Sven much anymore, but it's really cute. You can go out and catch it in the mornings
Wait,
or
wait,
on the
wait.
weekends.
When you say a tuna, is he facing the audience or is he
Yes.
on his side?
No, no, no. He's facing the audience. It's a tuna puppet.
I know. I'm just curious. Does it look more like a tuna or is it more like puppet?
Take Kermit the Frog, paint him purple, and put some fins on him. That's
Okay, okay. I was just confused for a second.
yeah, yeah. Really cute though. And dressed as Svengoolie, he's super cute. And Svengoolie will come out and do sketches. I've got a picture of the two of them together, both in their little costumes. Uh, Slide it out. And again, there's some videos of the Svengoolie stuff as well. Even the old Svengoolie with Jerry Bishop. Now Jerry Bishop was much different. He was more kind of like a weird hippie character, more like a HR Puff and Stuff character. But yeah, that's basically it for Svengoolie and the Texas 27 Film Vault. Thank you for taking that journey with me. Um,
Oh yeah, no problem.
we talked about one that is no longer around and one that is still going and is going really strong right now. Um, Eventually, we'll probably do Elvira, but I'd like to do hers on her own, because
She's Elvira. You can't mess with Elvira.
yeah, yeah, but she's done a bunch of productions and stuff like that. But I didn't have much on the Texas 27 Film Vault. Again, it only lasted 2.5 years, roughly, from February 9th, 1985 to August 29th, 1987. But I feel like it's culturally relevant. And if you weren't outside of the DFW area, you never got to see it. And it's one of those things that you really should see it because it's just funny and weird. And if you like
Yeah.
MST3K or Svengoolie or Joe Bob Briggs, you're gonna love it. So get out there and check it out. Again, apologies, it's not great quality, but it's what I could find. And there's a bunch of it.
Maybe one day they'll get somebody out there will clean it up.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice. It would be nice to get some of that cleaned up, or hey, produce new stuff. Randy Clower and Richard Malmos are alive, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
they'd be up for it because they do a convention every few years.
And hey, if those two guys are listening right now, interview us. We're interesting and silly.
Yes, yes, we are. Well, that brings us an end to this week's broadcast. Again, thank you for joining in with the during the hiatus where we're doing Just Nerdery. A big thank you to K3 again for doing this with me. Really appreciate
Yay,
it.
K3!
Yay! I want to thank our patrons who are out there still supporting us. We really appreciate it. There are costs that go to keeping us up. If you want to get some of our merch, you can go to our website, buy T-shirts, stickers, notepads. There's a hoodie, all kinds of stuff. If you'd like to be a patron, please go ahead and sign up. We really do appreciate it. Please and thank you. We should be back with some regular episodes in a few more weeks. So again, we do really appreciate all of you for listening and tuning in. And with that, I have been Zig with your Just Nerdery.
And I've been Kim with your internery.
Cue the music.